and welcome to another episode of Fintech Focus TV with me, Toby. Today, we are listing another company on the Financial Technologist magazine's Most Influential FinTechs of 2021. And it is my absolute pleasure to introduce you to Oliver Bradford from Shield FC. Oliver, how are you?
I'm good, thanks, Toby. Yeah, not too bad.
Listen, great to have you on the program. And you're someone who we've known and in the business for some time, and the company is a company I've been following and is listed on this magazine a couple of times now. Excellent company, providing real value to the marketplace. Let's hear a little bit, before we get into the reads of it. Let's hear a little bit of an overview of your background and your overview of what Shield FC do, please.
Sure. Yep. So I'm Oliver Bradford. My remit is basically I've been brought on to kind of run sales in Europe for Shield. So I'm kind of in charge of bringing customers on, getting more traction, and really spreading the word on what we do. In terms of my background, I've been at Shield now for around 8 months. Always been in a kind of commercial role. I started my working life off actually as a product manager, and then sort of sidestepped into sales after about 10 or 12 years.
Very interesting you say that. I've got a sort of side fascination at the moment about how many people who are sort of running and sales teams or leading businesses who come from a product background. I think it gives a sort of real insight into some of the issues, and it seems to be a real advantage for people to have had that background early on in their career.
Definitely. I think in the early days it really helped me because I had that I ended up sort of selling the products which I was managing, so I came in at least knowing what I was talking about, which which really helps.
A rare commodity sometimes.
Yeah, I think from the customer's point of view, often they kind of think the sales guy doesn't really know what they're talking about. Let's talk to the the pre-sales or the technical people. So that definitely helped me gain some good credibility. And then so I was working at a company called the Trolley for around 11 years. Basically, they're a manufacturer of kind of trading telephony systems and provided kind of voice compliance type solutions. Then I moved on to a company called Corville, who are really kind of at the sharper end of trading, monitoring latency of electronic trading, more kind of working with the large sort of sell side banks. And now to Shield, where we're in 3 kind of main markets. So we've got the capital markets area, and we're kind of selling to both the sell side and the buy side. So we have investment management clients, asset managers, as well as kind of tier 2 banks, and then also more recently in the energy markets as well, so energy trading. And I'm happy to be here. Sorry, a bit of a long introduction there.
Not at all. And I think it's a really interesting business, as you say, an Israeli business originally, spreading across across the world. I know there's a lot going on in Europe as well at the moment. And you're talking about fairly significant growth out in America as well. Tell us a little bit about the journey for Shield FC.
So, I mean, we're now at nearly 40 employees. We're just coming into our 4th year of business. So founded back in 2018, as you say, Israeli company, made up of kind of experts from different areas really. And we're now at a stage where, we're bootstrapped, so fully funded and profitable. And we're starting to sort of seriously scale up this year in terms of people. So we've got around I think it was actually 15 positions open, wow. All over the place really, from over in Israel to Europe to North America.
So the pandemic is an interesting sort of aspect, isn't it? For where there's companies there who sort of weathered the storm, and I've sort of termed this recently the offense versus the defense approach to how companies have attracted that. Some people have sort of shut up shop and said, right, let's survive and get through it. Other companies have sort of seen opportunity in the marketplace, and I guess that surveillance is absolutely the fuel for this sort of time, isn't it? You're in a marketplace, and and we'll come on to that, but it's sort of play within that. But at the same sort of time, there's companies there who've played cautiously, and there's companies there that have grown through this. How's Shield done over the course of 2020? Obviously, they brought you in, and I always find this amazing. You've come in the middle of a pandemic. You've started in the summer. there'll be, the vast majority of the team who you, in fact, I think as you were saying, all of the team who you haven't met in person.
Yeah, I've clocked up quite a few hours on video calls, I have to say.
I think we all have, haven't we? we all have.
Yeah.
How's it all been? How's the business fared? Have you fared? How's that onboarding been? Three questions. I'll throw at you in one.
Yeah, I mean, I think we had good momentum anyway from 2019. With some new customers and RFPs that we'd been winning. Coming into this year compared to last year, we had our company kickoff back in January, and we made, I think it was over 400% revenue growth in 2020 compared to 19.
Wow.
And yeah, we're still sort of bringing on new clients. We
imagine most of it from July onwards.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, as you said, it's a very relevant solution for the moment, a very relevant platform that meets kind of real needs. And we can go on to some of the kind of specifics of what's been happening in the market and regulation and so on to explain that.
Let's do that, because I think as we say, that like if we're to talk about one area of financial technology that's really had the petrol poured on the bonfire, it would be this sector, right? It's there's a lot that's really sort of moved, but compliance and all of the challenges that we saw very, very rapidly happen this time last year, almost to the week, as we talk about this in sort of mid-March as we interview. Tell us a little bit about some of the hot topics that you're seeing, and particularly, let's start with the impact of COVID.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think the big change really in terms of the area that we're in. So, I mean, Shield are a communication surveillance provider. So we're really kind of focusing on helping our clients, whether it's buy side, sell side, or energy trading clients, detect instances of market abuse in communications. And obviously, in March, it's almost a year ago today, probably, where the sort of national lockdowns were announced. Trading floors completely changed. Everybody started working at home, and I think the big change was electronic communications went through the roof. I saw some examples in a presentation I was watching from Microsoft, where I think it was in a period of 3 weeks, the number of minutes on Teams went up from, I think it was 560 million up to 2.7 billion in the space of 3 weeks. And
that's extraordinary, isn't it?
It's crazy, yeah. So, and people that we, our customers, they all say, two things: that electronic communications and voice went through the roof, and so did the alerts that they're having to manage on a daily basis. They had these kind of real world problems, as well as I think initially the regulators gave a bit of a leeway, but towards the end of last year we saw stronger and stronger statements coming out, and now I think they're going to move into a patch of enforcement where they're handing out fines to people for this, that, and the other, whether it's insider dealing or other forms of market abuse.
And I think with that being an area where we've seen significant I guess focus, the level of detail in being able to provide tech solutions to that has become has risen to the fore. There's been a lot of pressures on business, particularly around cost reduction, staff reduction in certain areas, etc. But all eyes have been on this, and with margins being squeezed, ROI becomes really important, and tech that allows that efficiency to be grown has probably pushed itself more to the fore than ever before. Tell me, and I know Shield has been particularly well famed for its use of technology.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about what's happening there and how you've helped in that space.
Sure. I mean, it's definitely an area which is kind of let's say ripe for automation and efficiency, because there are a lot of inefficient ways of of doing communication surveillance. And literally, I was speaking to somebody literally half an hour ago who fits right into that that category. And it's probably best if I give you some examples of what we're seeing kind of in the real world with our clients. So one area that we really focus on is trying to kind of give surveillance teams a very kind of concise and precise lists of alerts. And at the moment there are many organizations, buy side, sell side, energy trading clients, that have a problem of false positives, which are kind of basically alerts where something might have triggered in a communication. It might be a keyword alert or something like that, and it'll give them an alert. But that alert could be a communication which might be, like a trader's online shopping order. It could be, somebody talking about fixing their shelves at the weekends. And what we're able to do through different AI techniques that we use is to basically suppress these out of the alert lists and effectively kind of cut out the noise, and create very kind of specific and market abuse trading orientated models and behaviors that help people find instances of market abuse. And just to give you an example of one of our clients, they were getting something like 3,000 daily alerts on around 75,000 communications. So every day they'd have these kind of 3,000 alerts to look at. When they implemented our solution, we cut that down to 90.
Wow.
And yeah, they were still.
So just the hours on that is extraordinary.
Yeah,
right?
it's crazy. Saved. So that's like 97%. I think worked it out. This particular client, we're due to hire another 4 people, I think, this year for surveillance, and they don't need to now. So it's just a pretty kind of relevant example.
Should be applying to you instead, then, right?
Yeah. Obviously, we need to be conscious of who we're talking to, when we talk about these efficiencies and so on. But I think even people who are surveillance analysts still appreciate not having to spend 99% of their time looking at newsletters and so on in alerts. So
this data is extraordinary, isn't it? So we've just even in our business, we've used this year to sort of embrace automation a little bit more. And again, I think that the sort of the hours that it's been calculated, a bit, just at the very start, how many actions have been automated, and the efficiency gains that are on that, plus the improvements of contact with the database are seismic. So just in terms of what you're talking about there, I think it's fascinating just to see how much people can do and how valuable this can be to organizations at the same time.
Yep.
Sorry,
just another example on that as well. So we've developed like what we call an end-to-end surveillance system, which covers archiving and surveillance. And often clients may have an archiving tool and they may have a surveillance tool. So we're able to effectively combine these into one, and that can really create some efficiencies. And also, if we're doing the data management on the communications, we can enrich the data using other sources like transactions or HR data, and provide basically better analytics and better surveillance for them as well. So there's quite a lot of other efficiencies, as well as putting everything in the cloud and so on that clients can gain.
It's a theme that runs through all of the companies who are on the list. That sort of ability to remove friction, to increase efficiency, and I think those have been some of the I talk a lot about the golden thread of all the companies who've been listed, and this is one. Undoubtedly that's one of them. The other thing we're looking at is solving problems that need to be solved. So looking at really relevant, significant problems that have been created, not only by this time, but by various other stages. And I think this time has actually thrown an awful lot of pressure onto the industry with new problems that hadn't necessarily been looked at before. We were talking beforehand about the issues of and the rise of hidden insider dealing, and some pretty high profile cases of late within that, with a number of people working in shared accommodation, etc., etc. There's an awful lot of pressure in this. I know this is another thing that Shield FC have been very focused on over the course of this year. Tell me a little bit about how you've, or that particular problem, why it's an issue for your customers, and how you've come to the rescue.
Okay, so I mean, it's the whole kind of inside information sharing and insider dealing is it's an incredibly hot topic, which the regulators really focus on, both from a kind of regulated entity point of view and also a consumer point of view. I mean, it's illegal for me to, if I hear information on something, inside information, to then trade on it, as well as somebody in a regulated firm. Obviously, the people in regulated firms have different obligations. Now, there are a lot of organizations that have these things called insider lists or watch lists, which are basically lists of people who are working on, there might be an M&A deal or, a funding exercise or something like that. And, there'll be a deal team of people who are allowed to talk about this event. And it might be kind of time restricted. But often these watch lists are basically kind of static lists where there's just a list of names basically and dates, and what good is that? It's not actually going to prevent these situations happening. So what we've created in kind of working with our clients is a way to link the Shield platform to these control room softwares or insider lists to then detect when people are mentioning, so if somebody was working on a deal with Microsoft or something like that, we would then detect if somebody mentioned that outside of the the kind of Chinese wall or the barrier or the team that they're meant to, and then flag it to the compliance officers. So it's like a constant automated 24-hour kind of protection system which they have.
Incredible, isn't it? And just looking at those sort of issues that have popped up at various different stages, the speed of change and the sort of, I guess, new venues of trading at the same sort of stage create an awful lot of problems. And one of the sort of, I guess, handbrakes to innovation in financial markets has been the sort of relative skepticism and dangers, and security fears around the cloud. We've seen cloud adopted quicker, faster than ever before, in the same way that the vaccines have been created in speed that was never been seen before. So too has cloud been adopted into the financial markets, which has been as reticent as ever, which has increased a significant amount of regulatory pressure at the same time. As another hot topic, which I'm imagining you're coming up about against and into a fair amount of time, talk to us about how you're looking at that particular area.
Yeah, I mean, it's something which we're a cloud native technology, so we have some installations which are on premise. Most of them are in the cloud in a kind of SaaS type environment. We set out from the beginning to be agnostic. So, if a client has a preferred public cloud provider, we'll work with them. We do most of our installations, to be fair, on AWS, having said that. But we're very conscious that the health crisis has really massively accelerated people's opinions on putting different types of data in the cloud. And we've seen projects start off in 2019 where people wanted them on premise. Throughout the course of the project, in the end, they end up putting it in the cloud. And this is happening more and more. We also have a partnership with IBM. So I'm not sure you've heard of the IBM sort of financial cloud. So that this was, Shield were kind of one of the first, software providers available on the IBM financial cloud. And the tie-up there is really to give financial organizations mainly the types of compliance and security and so on that they would need in a cloud deployment that the other public cloud providers aren't necessarily able to give in their kind of standard environment. So we're seeing quite a lot of good traction and conversations there as well.
Incredible, and I think you sort of touched on something there, which is of how significant this has been. This time has been to this particular area. If you look at surveillance, compliance, software in particular, your 400% growth is phenomenal, and it's not unique to that particular area. Those are numbers which are fairly hard to keep up with. There's a lot of growth in a lot of businesses around that sort of space. And one of the things I'm interested in is that that's clearly been driven by what's happened in the marketplaces. As much as there has been sort of hits to the restaurant trade or the pub trade or whatever it is, the reverse is very much the case for your sector. And I'm very keen to look at this and say, look, I don't think that's something which goes away as soon as the sun comes back out and the vaccine takes its grip. To me, there's a fundamental change to the marketplace which keeps this very much at the forefront of what we're talking about. Let's look a little bit to the future now and how you keep, you're talking there about significant growth happening within the business. There's obviously investment into headcount, moving into the year ahead. So it's a business that's confident about sustaining that level of growth. both here and in the States. What fuels that, and what's the future look like?
So, I mean, I think our customer traction so far is really fueling the future growth, and you know, we're just about able to cope with who we have at the moment. But we have pretty big ambitions. We have a healthy list of clients that we're bringing on board at the moment, and we can just see that we're going to need this this level of investment in headcount going forwards. For the American market in particular, we see this as it's a massive market. We need local presence, we need feet on the ground, and people be able to meet, when we're all kind of let out of our houses, meet people face to face, although they don't have the same sort of lockdown in the US that we have over here.
It's very difficult to keep track of what's going on over there at various different stages, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, that's what the future looks like. We're adding to every different department, and we're going to continue innovating, and try and spread the word and bring more and more clients on.
So talk about that sort of we've always tried to do this with this show, to sort of showcase some of the good that's happening, as well as all the rest of the media really focusing on the doom and gloom, etc. I love hearing about wins and growth and success. Tell me about some of the things that you can really be proud of that Shield have achieved over the last year, and some of the predictions that you think will really be significant over the course of this.
Yeah, so I think the revenue growth and the sustainable growth that we have is something to be really proud of.
Absolutely.
The fact that we're profitable, and we've grown the business so far through customer revenue. As to how this is going to continue in the future, we see more and more clients coming on. So, and I think with some of the ideas that we have in terms of how we're going to move ourselves forwards, and perhaps go into different markets and so on, different use cases, it really does become more and more exciting and more interesting.
When you talk about different markets and use cases, that means I presume outside of the FS sector, or
still within the FS sector, but perhaps use cases which may, I mean, at the moment we focus on really kind of regulated users, and they're usually traders or research or sales people, but obviously there are other use cases which may cover wider populations. So we have some money laundering use cases where it might be entire bank's population that may be monitored. We have some employee conduct use cases which cover things like sexual harassment, racism, bribery, gifts and entertainment, that kind of thing. And I think we're going to start to see more, because there's less of people face to face in the office having these conversations, which, to be fair, you can't track it. There's more of these types of situation happening online, through communications and chat rooms and that kind of thing. And this is what we're able to monitor and detect. So I think, to be honest, we're going to see more use cases with different areas within institutes. So it could be like an HR team or something like that may be the end users of our platform, as well as compliance teams and control room teams.
Very interesting. Very interesting. We touched on this before, and I think it's a really interesting point of where companies are doing really well and where other companies are struggling. You've moved into a business of 40 that's grown significantly through the pandemic, both in terms of revenue and headcount size. Companies have spent a lot of time, money, effort over the years talking about culture and sort of having that sort of people together, all hands sort of aspect. This being a very unique sort of situation to be joining a business, and probably the first and only time you'll join a company in similar sort of circumstances in an entire career. Tell me a little bit about your experience and what's made it work, and how you've been welcomed into that family, because I think it's going to be really relevant for people to hear as well.
I mean, the first thing that struck me when I was having the interviews was the management team. That they are all a similar age to myself, similar stage of life, families, that kind of thing, and they just came across as very authentic and real people. There wasn't I had some interviews that were were terrible. You know, one that I actually had to, you know, pretty much complain about. But yeah, the management team just came across as very real and authentic, and this has continued through, you know, the last months. It is difficult to get a feel for company culture when you're working remotely. But we do try to have, you know, all hands calls, for example, every month. You know, we have regular team video calls. They regularly send me, whether it's alcohol, pajamas, you know, all sorts of different things to, you know, to just kind of keep that contact with you. And then I think as soon as lockdown ends, we're probably going to have some kind of not necessarily party, but I'm going to be going to Israel and meeting everyone. But to be fair, it has been quite a strange experience, just onboarding, learning, you know, doing customer meetings, and basically the whole lot over video.
So when you talk there about the, you know, and this is something that's really interesting for me, that sort of feel for culture.
Yeah.
As a sort of growth business, as it has been, culture I would have thought would have been very much at the sort of forefront of how they've run the business and what they've been looking to achieve with it. You know, you're very much there in that sort of growth phase as us against the world, and you're all in this together. Now, look, with a dispersed team that's headquartered elsewhere, there's always ways of trying to connect that and deal with it. And it's probably not too different in some respects, you know, from the norm for it. What is so you mentioned there about pajamas, and which is the first I've heard on of that as a tactic.
My wife's actually stolen them, so.
Oh, there you go. There you go.
Well, it was a his and hers set anyway.
Oh, even better.
I should have dressed up in them and brought her in here, and then.
I'd hope that's a whole nother show. But tell me a little bit about you know, because you're right. It must be difficult to sort of taste and feel that culture.
Yeah.
But you can tell from the way you're speaking that you're very invested into that business straight away. That you're feeling, you know, the way you're talking about it, the way you're talking with excitement about, you know, how you're solving customer problems and everything in between. That's you know, that's not easy. And there's companies that have got that very, you know, similar to what you just talked about the interview process. There's companies who are getting that onboarding aspect very, very wrong, and it is very difficult. You know, we brought people on in our business, and that connectivity is super difficult to you know, to maintain. And you really work at it and you think about it, and maybe that's a good thing in some instances. Because I was speaking to someone the other day who's joined a major international company which spreads across Geneva, Paris, London. And he said he's had more FaceTime because of being able to, you know, because of being forced into that and diarised than potentially you would do if you'd just been a part of another company. Are there any sort of tidbits there that are worth sharing that have been really good and really helped your acclimatization to the business?
I think just try and speak to as many people as you can, even if you know, I try to have regular calls with, you know, people in the product team or development team. But it is my focus is really is I kind of dip into the company more when I'm, you know, when I'm learning or I need questions answered, that kind of thing. But my focus is very external in more, you know, speaking to prospects and customers. I think just keep conversation and dialogue going, chat to people regularly, and, you know, Teams chat rooms, that kind of thing, and switch on the video whenever you can, as well as, you know, doing that on client calls. I will always try and have the video switched on, just so I can get a feel for who I'm talking to. They can get a feel for me, and it's no replacement of you know, face-to-face contact. But you know, I was speaking to our HR manager yesterday, for example, and she was telling me how you know, she's kind of studied this video calls and everything, and she said, you know, there's different parts of your brain which are working when you do video calls compared to face-to-face. So you can actually get a very good feel for what someone's like. But I'm more kind of old school in terms of preferring face-to-face contact.
Well, the good news is that hopefully is not too far away. And look, as a salesperson, what you wish for is a product that's adding value, that's got real innovation to it, and they can do that. And absolutely, from everything you've just been talking about, there is a real world problem, there's a great solution, and there's the ability, as we say now more and more, to get in front of people and to be able to help them out with that. So I'm so pleased that it's working out well for you and the team over there. It's been great to hear the story and to hear some of the ways that you've added value through this period. And 400% growth is absolutely phenomenal. So keep that up, and I shall look forward to welcoming you back onto the show in next year's list again, with even bigger and better things achieved. Oliver, it's an absolute pleasure. Thanks so much for sharing all of that with us today and joining the show. And thanks to all for watching. We hope you've enjoyed this episode of FinTech Focus TV. Oliver, thank you very much.